Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen. Today we are making Amish Crusty Bread. I can't wait to try this recipe. I found it online. I was watching an Amish girl making bread, and she has her recipe on the website, so I copied it down, and I'm going to attempt to make this bread. It just looked absolutely delicious, and it has it's just the easiest ingredients. Water. I'm going to use 1 1/4 cups of water, warm from the tap, not boiling, just warm. Now I'm going to use 1/4 cup of blue agave syrup. You can use any kind of sweetener, sugar, maple syrup, agave syrup, whatever you like to sweeten with, honey, but I'm using agave syrup. It's my favorite. I'm going to mix that together. I'm just going to use a spatula real quick and mix this together, get that syrup blended in, and then I'm going to add 1 1/2 tablespoons of dry active yeast. Just going to throw that right on top of the water. Kind of sprinkle it on. And this is the magic to your bread recipe. This is what's going to make your bread all puff up and rise. All right, I'm going to mix this yeast into the water. Just make sure it all gets wet. Now we're going to cover it with a clean dish towel, and I'm going to set it on top of my oven. My oven is being preheated right now, so it's nice and warm. And we're just going to leave that for 10 minutes. And then it'll foam and puff up just like this. See that? That's exactly what you want your yeast to look like. It should raise up in the bowl and puff up and foam. Now we're going to grab the oil. I'm using extra virgin olive oil, but you can use any kind of vegetable oil, lard, butter, any kind of oil. Lubrication will do. I'm using olive oil. I'm going to put in 1/4 cup of olive oil, and we're going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I'm just going to mix my salt right into my oil. Where is my salt? I can't find the salt. Where in the heck did I put my salt? Oh, there it is. Okay. 1 teaspoon. 1/4. Just going to blend this up in the glass measuring cup a little bit, get the salt all mixed into the oil, then I'll pour that right on top of the yeast mixture. Make sure you get it all. That's where I'm using a spatula so I can scrape the sides of the cup down and get all that salt and oil goodness out of that cup. Now you're just going to stir that in. And then we're going to add 6 cups of flour. And we're going to add that flour in 2 cups at a time. And I'm going to sift it in. I already have pre-sifted flour, of course, but I like to sift mine. I think it makes the bread and cakes and whatever I'm making with the flour, I think it makes it airier and lighter and fluffier, not as dense. So I get all that oil and salt mixed into the yeast water, the yeast and syrup in water. And then let's start putting the flour in. So I'm using red mill flour, artesian bread flour, unbleached. This is my favorite flour for bread making. Now you get to watch me make a mess of my kitchen. I'm quite messy. I'm always spilling. I'm excited to get this bread made and get out into the living room with my husband. We're having a little him and me party today. It's the end of the NFL playoffs, the last of the championship games. And we both are pretty excited to watch the games and do a little drinking and have a little fun. But I told him I wanted to get this bread made first. So I'm getting my sifter out. And I'm going to start with 2 cups of flour. Now this recipe calls for 6 cups of flour. I may not use all 6 cups just because I live in the Rocky Mountains. So I'm in a higher altitude, and often you need a little more water and a little more liquid and a little less flour when it comes to baking in high altitudes. So we're going to play it by ear. And I'm putting in the first 2 cups and sifting that in. Any of you ever use a sifter when you're baking? I love using a sifter. I just think it's fun. It's like playing in the sandbox when you're a kid. I used to watch my mother and grandmother sift flour. And I have a sifter too. Is it necessary when you're baking? No, you don't have to sift, but I like to. I'm just going to take my spatula and let's get this first couple cups of flour mixed into our liquid. The first couple cups are going to be easy. The more flour goes in, the harder it's going to get this dough to form properly, I imagine. Okay, there's the first 2 cups. It's like a very sticky dough at this point. Let's go into the next 2 cups. Okay, seems like an awful lot of flour to this dough. I feel like 4 cups is going to be enough, but it's calling for 6. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's just sift the rest of this in. I do love to bake. You know, I saw this Amish girl on the internet yesterday making this bread recipe, and I watch her videos all the time. She brings up recipes from when she was a child growing up. Now, I don't know if she's still Amish because she's making these videos and she's a content creator, but she dresses like an Amish girl and she sounds like an Amish girl in her accent, and she has the most incredible recipes, and I've been following a lot of them, and oh my gosh, they're so good. I just love Amish baking. They make the most incredible things. Yesterday, I learned how to make this Amish Crusty Bread. I learned how to make homemade breakfast cereal, and it looked delicious. I cannot wait to make a batch. I learned how to make all sorts of things that I've always wondered how they made them, and now I know. So I'm sharing this first recipe of the Amish Crusty Bread. It just looked incredible when she was making it. It looked so good. See what I mean about this dough? It just seems like it's requiring an awful lot of flour. I'm going to go ahead and use my fingers because I'm having trouble getting it to mix with a spoon. This is just really difficult to do. And now I'm getting flour all over my shirt. I'm calling my husband. Hey, Dan, can you come here? Push my sleeves up for me. I forgot to do that, and I'm getting covered in flour. Help, help, help. So he's helping. Sorry, I stepped off camera. I'm getting my sleeves rolled up by my husband. I shall be back in just a second. I guess I should just edit this part out, huh? Probably be smartest. Oh, I'm back. Okay, let's get this dough worked. I gotta get this dough worked together. I'm gonna move everything to a bigger bowl. That's part of the problem. I do not have enough space in this bowl that I'm using. We'll just go to a bigger bowl. That's bound to help things. Make sure I get every bit out of there. Okay, So I'm just going to hand knead this dough, get all this flour mixed in the way the paperwork, the recipe tells me to. I'm just going to kind of work it. I'm trying not to overwork it because I don't want to make a dense bread that's overly kneaded. I feel like when I've over-knead bread and dough, that it becomes very dense and very thick and it loses that airy texture and that fluffiness. So I'm trying not to knead this bread very much. I want to get the flour mixed in, but I don't want to compress the bread too terribly much. I'm trying to just kind of do a fold and turn instead of like smashing it a whole bunch. I'm just like slowly working the flour into it because I really don't want to overwork this dough. I'm brand new to bread making, and if you've got techniques out there that you can teach me that can help me to make even better breads, I'm more than willing to listen. I'm in the learning stages of bread making. You know, I worked in a commercial bakery for, excuse me, I've worked in commercial bakeries several times for many years. I worked on the pastry chef end of things and the sweet end of things. I was a cake decorator and a donut maker, pastry chef. I've worked in grocery store bakeries. I've worked in private bakeries. I've worked in donut and coffee shops. I've worked in commercial bakeries. I've worked in a lot of bakeries. And I've never worked on the bread end of things. I've always worked on the sweet and pastry end of things. And I used to really get excited when I'd see the girls in the back and the guys in the back, you know, making bread and smelling all those smells and seeing all those beautiful golden crusty breads in the ovens. I always was jealous. I always wanted to work in the bread end of things. But then they were always wanting to come over and make pies and cakes and decorate with us. So I guess the grass is always greener, right? Anyway, I never made breads. You know, I made all kinds of pastries and sweets when I worked in baking, but I never made bread. So this is like a brand new adventure for me to make breads. I do not have a bread machine. I don't have the fancy gadgets for bread making. It's just doing it the old-fashioned way. But that's what I'm doing, is I'm doing my best to just get this dough completely worked up. I think I'm going to have to turn this over onto my countertop here soon and work it on the counter. I think it'd be easier than trying to do it in this bowl. We'll see. I'm also OCD. I don't like messes. I get really, really uptight. I don't like flour all over my counters and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see how I do with this. Anyway, I'm starting to feel like it's time to dump it, I think. Yeah. I scrubbed and cleaned all my counters this morning just for this very thing. Oh, here we go. Okay. I finally decided let's just do it. Let's just dump it and get this thing worked properly. And now you'll get to see me just completely covered in flour because I'm going to make a mess. Oh, you know I am. I'm going to make a mess. So, what to do when baking bread in high altitude. I'm noticing that the recipe called for a lot more flour than I feel like it needs. I feel like the dough is too dry. So I'm doing a little exploring online to see, should I add a little water? Should I add a little milk? Should I add a little oil? What do I do? Do I use all this flour that it's calling for? Because as you see, this is all 6 cups of flour here with my dough right now. And to me, this seems like way too much flour. This dough is getting hard to work. It's getting quite dense and dry, and I don't want overworked dough. So I'm sitting here thinking, wait, there's just more flour than necessary. And what I did find after doing a little research is that when you're baking in high altitudes, you often have to decrease the amount of flour, increase the amount of liquids, and you got to change your heat and cooking times a little bit too. So I'm going to adjust for that. There we go. I ended up adding an extra about a 1/16 of a cup of water, and I added 2 tablespoons more oil, and I got my dough to the exact consistency that I wanted. It's maybe even a little bit drier than it should be, but it's pretty decent. I'm going to go ahead and let it rise. Put it in a well-oiled bowl. I oiled a bowl with olive oil so that there's oil all over that bowl. Put my dough in the middle, and I'm going to drizzle a little bit more olive oil over the top of the dough ball. just to keep things moist. Now I'm going to massage it just a little bit, get that oil all over the top of that dough so nothing's dry. And then I'm going to cover it again with a towel and put it back over on my warm preheated oven. Put it on the stovetop. Now I will clean up this mess. And then I will see you guys back here in a little bit. I have a big mess to clean.
Okay, I'm using spray. I know they say you can use regular olive oil and put it in with your fingers. I'm lazy. I'm spraying my husband's loaf pan. He has had this pan since I met him 19 years ago. It's a Fallscroft. Is that not beautiful? My mother used to collect a similar pottery, a little bit lighter brown in color, but it's just beautiful. I believe it's from the 1960s or maybe even the 50s.
No, it's
70s?
70s.
Okay, 70s. My husband said 70s.
And
I love this pan though.
And the other stuff that she collected was called the McCoy.
McCoy, that's right. My mom collected the McCoy.
That's the midline. Fallscroft is like the high end of that style.
So what
and
he's
then
saying
McCoy
is that
was like the midline.
my husband had the good stuff and my mom had the generic.
No, she had the midline.
Okay, midline.
And then there was
If you have
another
dollar
like,
store, Kmart, and Macy's, this is Macy's.
Yeah.
My mom had Kmart,
Yeah.
and then there are some folks out there that actually have the dollar store.
Yeah, and that was called oven bake, I believe, or something like that.
You learned something new today, guys. You learned about ceramic cookware. Isn't this pretty though? It's a beautiful loaf pan. It's
In
the
that
only one
style.
I use. We do have a metal one too, but I've never actually baked in the metal one. I like this one. We do meatloafs in this. It makes a beautiful banana bread. My husband can attest to that. He ate almost an entire loaf of my banana bread last week.
Yes.
And I made it out of pancake mix. I should have shared that recipe with you guys because it was a really interesting substitution recipe if you don't have flour. You can use pancake mix to make banana bread, and I'll tell you what, it was just as good, if not better and moister than any banana bread I've ever made. It wasn't nearly as dense. It was a lot fluffier and lighter. I enjoyed it. And he did too.
Oh, it was really good.
But today we are making...
Next time it's my turn to make mine.
Yes, you need to. But today we are making Amish Crusty Bread. Like I said, I was on the internet. There's a girl on there. I'm going to put a link to her videos. You guys need to watch her. She's so entertaining. She's so fun. And she's bringing you recipes straight from her mother and grandmother's Amish kitchen that she grew up with. She makes everything, not just bread, pies, cakes, cookies, candies. She made cereal. Instead of going to the store and buying boxed cereal, she showed me today how to make cereal with oatmeal and cinnamon and sugar and molasses and flour, and it looked incredibly good. And I can't wait to try making some homemade cereal. It's basically just granola that you add milk to and eat. But anyway, today we are making the Amish Crusty Bread, and right now my bread is, we already proofed the yeast, and now we're rising for the second time. Look at that. Oh, I don't know if you can see, but it's 3 times bigger than it was when I put it on top of the stove. So I've got my alarm set. We've got another about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll be taking this bread out and we're going to punch it down and knead it, divide it in half, shape it into loaves, and place it into this pan, one of them. Let it rise for another 30 additional minutes. After it rises for another 30 minutes, then it'll be baked, and we'll just see if I'm able to make this Amish Crusty Bread. I hope so, because we're going to eat this today. Sure are. All right, guys, I'll be back in a jiffy. Okay guys, we're back here in my kitchen, and the bread dough should have risen enough that it's ready to bake. Let's just take a look. Oh, look at that. She's ready to go. Let's see if our round artesian style. Oh, look at those 2 loaves. Beautiful. Okay guys, we're gonna turn these out. This one stays where it is. I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil and sea salt on the top of it maybe. But these are ready to bake, so let's go ahead and get them in the oven. One moment. Okay guys, as you can see, everything raised beautifully. I'm gonna go ahead and get these in the oven. I've got to turn that artesian style bread out onto an oiled pan. pan. I'm just using a pizza pan. This will work just fine. And get some oil. Okay, guys. If the old man ever quits walking in front of the camera, I will show you how this bread goes in.
I'm out.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and spray this pizza pan with some canola oil as so. You could also wipe it with vegetable oil, butter, lard, any kind of grease will do, just lube it up. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and turn this artesian style bread. Let me just move this loaf out of the way. I'm gonna turn this right onto this, if I can do it. There we go. Oh, she's a beaut. There we go. She's a beaut. All right, let's put these in the oven. One on this side. Get my light on. And this one right on this side. Shut the oven. And let's just see how long do we bake this for. We bake this for, you're gonna bake it at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Okay, guys, I'll see you back here in 30 minutes and we'll get this beautiful bread out of the oven and give it a taste. Okay, guys, I believe the bread is done.
It sure looks like it is. Let's go ahead and get this pulled out of the oven, okay?
Okay, guys, you're here with me in my kitchen. My bread is done. Check this out. Let's get it out of the oven. Look at that. Look at that. That's beautiful. Oh, goodness. Look at that, you guys. These are beautiful. I can't believe I made this. If I can do this, you can do this. Okay, I'm going to let this bread set and rest for 20 minutes. And then we'll turn the loaf out and cut it while it's still warm and have a piece. Let's take a look again. Let me just turn it. And there it is. There's one loaf. Look how big and thick and puffy it is. And here's the other loaf. I can't wait to turn this out onto the tray and take a look at it. Beautiful. And take a look at these loaves and see if I was successful with this bread as I feel like I was. Let's check it out. Okay, I got a paper bag here and I'm gonna just try and turn this loaf pan over and out. Hopefully my bread didn't stick. Oh, it's perfect. This is a happy camper. I made a bread. I made a bread. All right, let me turn this one sideways. Oh, it smells so good. Let me get this pan, this loaf pan over here. Now let's turn the other one out. I should be able to just kind of slide this one off. Oh, look at that. Da-da-da. You guys, I feel so successful. Let me turn my camera. Look, you guys, I made bread. I made bread. Ah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna let it set and rest for like 10-15 minutes and I'll come back to you and we'll give it a taste test. We'll give it a try. Okay, I learned a trick today online from the Amish Girls Bakery. They said after you take your bread and you turn it out onto parchment or onto paper, to lay a damp dish towel across your bread as it cools, because this will keep your crust from getting hard as a rock and keep your bread more moist. So let's go ahead and do what they said, because these girls know what they're talking about. Okay guys, the exciting time is here. It's ready to be cut and tried, and I can't wait. I am going to try a piece of this bread right now, because I've been wanting to make bread for years and years and years, and I'm excited that I did. Let me get my bread knife. It's the first time I'm going to try my own. I don't know which one to try. Do I try the artesian or do I try the loaf? You know, I think I'm going to try a loaf. The loaf. I'm going to cut a piece off the loaf. Let me get some butter and honey. Okay, I've got the butter, the margarine. Now let me see if I can get my husband to unload some of his honey for me.
Oh, no way.
He has about 35 containers. But is that the kind I like?
Yeah. This is the good stuff.
We don't have any of the cheap teddy bear stuff?
No.
All right, this stuff it is then, I guess. I like the white honey.
That's the good stuff.
My husband is a honey aficionado. He's like an expert with honey. This is like he says this is the good stuff. It's really thick, like paste.
Yeah, that's like $25, $30 a jar.
Are you serious?
Yep.
That's a lot of money. All right, so what I'm gonna do, guys, is I'm just gonna get this paper sack.
Specifically from New Zealand.
And we're gonna take this ciabatta style bread. We're gonna put it in a bag. For now. Put it over here. It's still a little warm. All right. So here's my beautiful loaf. I'm so excited. All right, here we go. I'm gonna cut the end off. It's got a nice crust. It feels soft. And there it is. Ooh, it smells good. Let's give it a try.
It looks awesome.
Do you want to try it?
Yeah, cut the slice.
Okay. Outside or inside? Do you want a butt end with the crust or do you want the inside? He's not even listening, so we're just going to give him what we give him. How about that? All right. Got some honey on there, manuka. I think that's how you say it, manuka honey. Okay, so let's just give this a try. Mmm. Mmm. Mmm.
Isn't that honey good?
It sure is. Hold on, I want my husband on camera. He's going to try this bread and tell you what he thinks. Let me get the hot guy over here.
I'm stealing this. Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah?
That was really good.
Did I nail it?
Yes, you did.
It's light and fluffy this time.
Mhm.
It's not dense.
It's really good.
Yes, thank you.
Mm.
Mm. Okay, guys.
Mm.
If I can do this, you can do this.
That is really good.
Recipe linked below the video. Thanks for joining me in Christy's Kitchen.
Really good.
Thanks, babe. I'm going to go watch the playoffs and get drunk now. Bye.